It's a love story set in a pandemic. So guess which element we're going to obsess about on Film Threat Reviews. I'm Alan Ning. I was Zorianna Kit, and today we are reviewing Little Fish, which is on Hulu. A couple fights to hold their relationship together as a memory loss virus spreads and threatens to erase the history of their love and courtship. Directed by Chad Hartigan, stars Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell. So this is one of those films that is about a pandemic and was unfortunate to have been in post-production just as the pandemic had begun. And so that's what I'm saying. It's very much a love story, but I think but in context, I think we're going to obsess a little bit too much about the pandemic aspect of this. What did you think of Little Fish?
You're right. As I was watching this, I was like, this is uncanny. Really, it is. And I'm sure there's other films, on this type of topic that are coming out or that we've seen coming out. We've reviewed a couple of pandemic themed or virus, I think anything with a virus now is going to be like, oh, look, it's COVID. It's just what it is. But I do have to say, this was a lovely, beautiful love story. I want to focus on that. It is a gorgeous love story. It is sad. It is tragic. It is beautiful. It is hopeful. From the first scene, the opening scene, and then the ride that you take all the way to the very last scene, which is those two scenes are very important. Yeah. But the stuff in between is just it really is. It had my heart. This film, it really did. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. This is a movie that it's on Hulu now, but it had been in theaters. I think it was at Toronto, but I'm not exactly sure about that because I remember seeing it back in October. But yeah, this is a love story, and it's unfortunate that it happens in a pandemic during a pandemic. But okay, so here's what I love about this movie. It's this idea of when you start a movie, you start with a blank slate. You know nothing. You know nothing about the characters, the situation, this love story, nor do you know anything about this pandemic. And the writer, Aja Gabel, it's a short story, and Mattson Tomlin, and the director for that matter, the way they reveal information from start to beginning is absolutely perfect. They reveal just enough to get you engaged as to what the hell is happening, and then slowly reveals not only what is going on with this virus, but then at the same time build this relationship between Emily and Jude, Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell.
Yeah.
And it's just master storytelling. And this is a movie that has gotten lost. And thanks to Hulu, don't miss this one.
Yeah.
Please go see it.
Yeah. The timelines do kind of they jump because a lot of it revolves around memories, preserving your memory, holding on to a memory, how someone's memory of a situation is different than the other person's memory. I think to me, the theme is memory and what is that and how much it means to people. And so the timeline, it does kind of shift a little bit. Like, I guess you can say it jumps, but the thing is, sometimes it takes you a beat to figure out if you've just jumped a timeline or if you're going linear. But that wasn't even a problem. Like that, I think that was part of the filmmaking of how the director just kind of lured you in, where you're on one path and you're following it, and then there's this one little thing where you're like back in a club, or you're seeing something from a different memory, and then you yourself have to sort of figure out and decide where you're going to go with this. And
before we go on, if you don't know what we're talking about, there's this disease, NIA, neuroinflammatory affliction, and it causes basically memory loss. It's rapid onset Alzheimer's, but it's also viral, so it's spreading rapidly across the world. And Olivia Cooke's character had begun dating Jude, And soon after they got married, he begins showing signs of memory loss. And along with that, her mother and then her friends are getting this. And
Yes.
this is, yeah. And so when you talk about how they play around with memories, they do some really interesting things. And yeah, they jump around the timeline a lot. And I think that has a lot to do with trying to get us into this idea of what's going on in the minds of these characters, or how they're losing their minds, so to speak.
Yes. Well, I also thought that this virus itself was a very interesting thing to play within the film, because they do call it a virus, but essentially it's Alzheimer's. Like that's what it is. And Alzheimer's is not a virus, but this is a virus that gives you Alzheimer's, for lack of a better word. And normally when we see movies about Alzheimer's, it's usually older people getting that. And so a story revolving memory and Alzheimer's is usually a love story between a family where an older person is afflicted, or two old people and one of the spouses is afflicted with that. So to call this Alzheimer's-like disease a virus that anyone can get at any point in time moves it completely to a different generation, a young generation that's healthy and vibrant and are in the prime of their lives and are just starting out, and they have a whole future ahead of them that's supposed to be bright. But now there is this threat, and that I've never seen in a movie before. And I just loved that concept, because you bring the disease into a whole other age group.
Yeah. And now that I'm going to shift us to the pandemic aspect of it, but it's amazing how much insight they had about a pandemic before the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And to the point where, there's a controversial clinical test that Jude is submitted to. And it is insane what that procedure is. And I can't spoil any of that.
Yeah.
But the procedure is leaked on YouTube, and now people are starting to take matters into their own hands.
Oh, no, that was horrible. That was,
yeah. But that was happening here. People started making their own hand sanitizer. People started making their own masks.
Oh, their own bottles of bleach, maybe?
Yeah. And the hysteria that came across, not only between the two of them, but now in the world that they live in.
Yeah.
And again, it's like just the foresight that these writers had to know what could happen during an actual pandemic.
Yeah. And also, I think it's important to point out that the disease, this disease affects people differently. For some, it's a very slow memory loss where they start to forget little things, like maybe short-term things, and it's a slow burn. For others, it can be a quick onset where they just wake up one day and don't recognize the person they're with, or don't recognize the home that they're in. And that type of affliction in that way can result in violence, can result in killing, or can result in suicide. So there are things that are, it's not like, oh, they're just losing their memory and it's painful and they can't remember me or our dog or our house. When it is a all or nothing, that gets pretty scary in the film. It really does.
I would like it to, if M. Night Shyamalan told a love story, this would be it. It's and again, I can't stress more how great the storytelling is.
We have to talk about our two leads, Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell. Two Brits. One of them plays a legit Brit in the movie. The other one plays an American, flawless American accent.
I was fooled. I had no idea.
Yeah, they are terrific. I mean, if leads are so important. If you're going to anchor a film on the shoulders of two people who are going to carry you through, this couple, there's chemistry here. You want them to be together. You're rooting for them. They are so amazing. And Olivia Cooke is really having a moment right now. I mean, she was just in Sound of Metal, playing Riz Ahmed's girlfriend. She was fantastic in that. Looks completely different, sounds completely different. A really versatile young actress. Really, just like this is the the next amazing actress.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add Thoroughbreds to that. That's the first time I've heard of Olivia Cooke was Thoroughbreds, and that is such an amazing film as well, and her performance is equally good.
And last time I saw
Jack,
To me,
Jack O'Connell.
Jack O'Connell, he was so fabulous in Angelina Jolie's Unbroken, the biopic of Louis Zamperini, fabulous. So our two leads are great, surrounded by a great supporting cast as well. Everyone's fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's on Hulu, so there's no reason not to see it.
Exactly.
Except you don't have a subscription. I mean, absolutely go see this movie. If you are a fan of Olivia Cooke, I mean, there's no reason you should not see this movie. I think it's fantastic. So, we're both on the same page. We love it. We both hooked on to that love story and just this incredible world that has come to light. So I'm going to say you gave it 8.5.
Yes, I gave it an 8.5. There was at some point, maybe 3/4 of the way through, I kind of got a little slow because it's not a fast-paced film. It really takes its time. So I did start to feel like I was getting a little bit bored, but then the treatment came in, and that just brought it right back up again for me until the end. So that's why it just gets a little lower grade for me. I think actually you loved it more than I did. I don't know why I think that. I just do. And I think you gave it a 9.
Yeah, it's weird. It sounds like that. I gave it an 8. But it's weird. The more I think about it, the more I've been talking about it. It's like, well, maybe I should have given it 8.5. But I gave it.
Change. You don't have to give it to an 8.
It's on the record on Rotten Tomatoes. It's an 8, so I have to go with that. But I mean, an 8 is still a strong recommendation.
Yes,
and,
of course.
And I can't recommend. This is just. I mean, the reason I'm harping on it so much is because no one's seen it. It's just didn't do well on VOD, and so now it's available. And so give it a shot, please.
Yeah. When you have those free 30-day trial or whatever, this is the time that if you were thinking about doing that with Hulu, this is the movie that you actually invest in your free trial to see if you want to continue your subscription to Hulu. This should be your impetus to do that. Yeah,
that and all the professional wrestling that's on Hulu. Okay, so with that, be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. Let it go see Little Fish and let us know what you thought.
Yes.
And with that, let's get out of here.